Hello and welcome to a very special TNC Player Insight video. I cannot wait to get stuck into this conversation today. It's all about Amankwah Forson with football journalist of 3 Sports, Ghana country manager and writer for flashscore.com, analyst, contributor, the man that broke the news of Amankwah Forson's move to Norwich City. What he doesn't know about Ghanaian football is not worth knowing. It's Owuraku Ampofo, my friend. Welcome to Talk Norwich City. How are you and where are you?
I'm good. Currently in Accra, seated in my office. Should be going on TV in the next few minutes. So I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to get you on. And let's kick off with that question, Owuraku. You were the guy that broke that news into the world that Amankwah Forson was going to become a Norwich City player. Just give us a bit of an insight into sort of how you found out about that news and when it all came about.
So I think I was actually getting a haircut at the barber's, and then I received a message from the agent that I think is going to happen tonight. We had prior conversations about Forson moving this summer because, he had been at Red Bull Salzburg for a while now, has gone on a couple of loans with Liefering, their sister club, and then I think Touch as well. But when I think he came back, he spent a couple of seasons at the club. His game time has gradually improved, but he probably wanted more responsibility. And, a club like Salzburg, with Pep Lingis coming in, the different changes that were undergoing, the signings, he wasn't certain he was going to get that amount of time. So he already made that decision to leave Salzburg early in the summer. So I think I put out a post saying that, the likes of clubs in England, Germany, have expressed interest in Forson. So at the Barbers, I just got a message that, look, I think he's going to go to Norwich. And I was like, whoa. That was fast. And I think the main reason was the fact that Norwich's proposal was more defined. Anderlecht were also very, very close. But for Norwich, they had already lost an attacking midfielder, I think, in Sarr. And so they said basically like he's coming in and slotted in right now. Other clubs couldn't tell him what his role would be, but Norwich gave him that assurance. And then he flew in that Wednesday night. The CEO signed a deal on Thursday, and I think he played over the weekend. Yeah, it was that fast.
That is a fascinating insight, Owuraku. I really appreciate you sharing some intel with us there. Can you tell us a bit about Amankwah Forson's background, his development, his journey up to this point, and specifically, Owuraku, I'm interested in knowing, has his experience back in Ghana shaped his playing style?
So for Forson Amankwah, he started from West African Football Academy here in Ghana. They were a very proficient academy in around 2014, 2015, 2016, where they developed some of Ghana's best talent. You're looking at Majid Ashmera, Anderlecht. There's also Gideon Waja. And then there's Augustin Boachi, who is currently with Saint Etienne in League A. And, the thing about Wafa was that unlike academies now where players are restricted in the sense that there's a lot of positional discipline, you need to play one-touch, two-touch stuff. For Wafa, they gave a lot of freedom to their players to express themselves on the ball. And so if you look at the names that I mentioned in Augustin Boache, Majid Ashimeru, these guys love to entertain. They love to dribble. They love to show real good stuff when they have the ball. And so they're not limited. There was that freedom to express themselves. And I think that's what, in the end, makes them stand out. Because if you're looking at their midfielders, they are all very stylistic, love to impress, love to, leave the fans wild. And I think that's the most important thing. And you can see that in the way that he plays. He's very elegant on the ball and also loves to express himself, like how we've seen a lot of Wafa graduates do. In the Ghanaian divisions, you don't really have a lot of time. And I think it's very similar to what we see in the championship, where there's so much tightness, press. You don't really get a lot of time. So if you're not good in tight spaces, you will struggle. And I think that has gone on to define his play style. Picking that from Wafa till now.
That's so interesting to know, and yeah, he certainly entertains. We've already given him the nickname Awesome Forson. You might be interested to know. So he's already Awesome Forson. So he's already impressing the Norwich City fans. And could you just, I guess, explain a little bit more about his sort of key strengths as a player? What type of player is he? Is there another high profile footballer that you would perhaps compare Forson to?
Yeah, I think I would. In his own words, I'll say Bernardo Silva. I spoke to him 2 summers ago, I think, before actually, I think it was the December break. It was sometime last year. And he was in Salzburg. He had already played in the Champions League. And he mentioned that the player that he idolizes growing up there was Bernardo Silva of Manchester City. And that time he was probably in Monaco coming up. When he was at Monaco, he was very he was artistic on the ball, loved to dribble. No one could literally take the ball off him. And that's the one attribute that Forson says he looks up to him for. The fact that when Bernardo gets the ball, no one can take it off him. He says that within terms of height, he might be a bit taller than Bernardo Silva, but there's still a lot of catching up to do with regards to his ball retention and just his basically ability on the ball. But I think if there was a high profile player to look up to, it would be Bernardo. You're looking at Forson, a player who also similarly, despite the fact that he gives you a lot going forward, he works hard in the defensive aspect as well, presses, tackles, and also puts in a shift when his team doesn't have the ball.
Okay, so let's talk now about Amankwah Forson's, I guess, adaptation to the English Championship. And I'm really intrigued to know, what do you think will be Amankwah's biggest hurdles that he might face? And how can the Norwich City fans help Amankwah with regards to overcoming those potential hurdles?
So I think the biggest hurdle is that maybe sometimes because he's young, he gets carried away in the sense that, yes, he has the ability to play a pass and pick a pass, eye of the needle stuff, but sometimes he can get excited. And there are some zones in the pitch where you might not need to take as much risk. So if there's one area that he probably has to work on, it would be his ball retention and decision making. Because I think that's what's most important for a midfielder. If you're looking at someone like Bernardo, he barely makes the wrong decision when he's on the ball. So if that's the ultimate that he wants to get to, then he would have to work on that as well. Also, there's the aspect of load management. In his career, he's never gone past 15, 20 starts. But in the championship, you're going to play every 3 days, literally. They're going to play more than 40 games. Even adding the cup games, it could perhaps even go to 50 games. If he's starting even half of that, those are numbers that he's never seen in his career. And he's just 21. And so his body may have to get used to playing more frequently than he's ever done in his career. And so I think that's also another hurdle that he might have to succumb to.
Owuraku, I know that you are on personal terms with Amankwah Forson. Can you tell us a little bit about his character, his personality, his mentality? What could he bring to this Norwich City side? And also, what is Amankwah like as a person behind the scenes?
Well, I think when I met him, he was very shy. I still think he's quite shy. Doesn't really like the camera that much. I'd have to force answers of him anytime I'm doing an interview with him. But I think that would definitely improve now being in England. I think if you look back to his first post-match interview with Norwich, you would definitely see this someone who wish he didn't have to talk. But in the end, he's a talented guy, and I think if you're looking at him, he would definitely go on to become a really, really key player for Norwich. I think on a personal terms, he is a religious person, and I think that also plays into the fact that he has a lot of grit. He perseveres and never gives up. And you can see on the pitch, always running, always giving his best. With regards to him being behind the scenes, yeah, I said He's a shy guy. He doesn't really talk much, but yeah, I think he's an amazing guy, very friendly guy as well. When you get to know him and when he eases into the environment, he's a really, really good guy. And at the end of the day, he just wants to play football. To be honest, that's just the thing about Forson. He's always been playing football from childhood, and that's just what he wants to do.
You can tell that he loves the game, and just 21 years old. Norwich City fans, certainly myself, we're already getting very excited about this prospect of Amankwah Forson joining the club at such a young age. Should Norwich City fans be as excited as we are, or do we need to calm down a bit on Amankwah Forson?
Well, that's a difficult one. I do think it needs to be a bit balanced in the sense that we're looking at a player who has massive talent, massive potential, but a lot of it needs to be realized. And in the sense that even in the Black Stars, he's only recently become sort of close to it. He's still not fully in. He's had one call up in March for the friendlies, but even this one, he was on the standby list. And so his career, I would say, has ascended pretty swiftly the past few months. Usually for young players, it could go both ways. It could be that he continues on that trajectory and then really reaches the potential, or things could change. There are a lot of factors that usually go on into player development. But I do think there's a lot to be excited about with Forson because he's a very determined guy who has very driven and has a lot of ambitions. And he wants to follow in the footsteps of someone like Semenyo, Fatau Isaaku. They both played in the championship and then played in the Premier League. And so the championship is seen as a very good step, a lot of visibility, and also the potential of being just one tier away from the best league in the world. And so I think, yes, they can be excited, but because he's young, and as I also mentioned earlier, there's that temptation to get carried away, and he would make mistakes. But it's important that he keeps his head down and bounces back from those errors.
What you've mentioned already about games and the relentless nature of the championship and playing so much football, I'm sure will impact Amankwah. And fair enough, we are expecting somewhat of a transition season for his development at Norwich City. But Owuraku, what can we expect from Amankwah Forson this season? What would you like to see from him as a Norwich City player this season?
Well, he's already got a couple of assists, I think. I don't know whether it's a tactical thing or whether it's down to the player. But you see, because he is someone who loves the ball, he always wants to feel connected to the play, in the sense that 2-3 minutes, if he's not touching the ball, you see him dropping deep. And I think, if I remember, I think the first goal that you scored, I can't remember that particular match, but he dropped into almost the left back slot, started play with that long pass, and then went forward and played the reverse pass that led to the goal that you scored. I think that was the first goal in that game. That is nice to see him drop deep and play. But the thing is, if that happens, he's usually left a bit too far behind play. And so he may not be racking in the goals and assists that you would want him to see. Personally, I would love to see him score a lot more goals. But the problem is that he's always dropping too deep. And so he's not in the areas where he should be scoring. I would have wished he would break his neck to try and, get into the box more and score. But, I mean, once he keeps on influencing his play and helping the team, and I think that's the most important thing. And I know that's one thing that he would work on, because just to also tell you this for a fact, that after every game that he plays, his management actually uses Y-Scout to cut out all his actions and rewatch the game with him, just to ensure that he betters his decision making next time. Whatever he was doing right, he continues to do. And in the instances where he did something wrong, he is told to better it next time. So beyond the training ground, he's working really hard, tirelessly with his team to ensure that he becomes the best version of himself.
Owuraku, you've already got me thinking about Amankwah Forson scoring goals. I'm dreaming. I'm thinking loads of amazing positive things, and it makes me remember we had two African players playing for us at one point, which was Sebastian Bassong from Cameroon and Kai Kamara from Sierra Leone. They famously did a traditional African dance together for their celebration. What's Amankwah Forson's celebration? Could we expect a dance from Amankwah?
I'll be surprised if he does, to be honest. As I mentioned, he's a very shy guy. You know, like anytime he scores, he just turns around, shakes his teammates. I don't know, maybe that would change, but with the frequency, if he's scoring a lot more, then you know, okay, now I have to have a signature celebration. But all through his career, he's not scoring frequently enough to maybe even think of that. He scored a couple of goals from range and maybe some cutback finishes here and there. But maybe that could be another chapter for him to unlock. But I think it would come after he starts to score frequently.
Well, Owuraku, I know you're friends with Amankwah Forson, so Amankwah, I know you're watching right now. So Amankwah, we want to see a Ghanaian Black Stars dance celebration. All right, Owuraku, I want to talk you the Black Stars. I know that you're wearing the jersey. We love watching them play football. What is Amankwah Forson's reputation like with the Black Stars at the moment? I know that you've mentioned there that he was obviously on the standby list. He has been called up to the recent qualifiers to get into the African Cup of Nations tournament. Is he going to get in that squad for the African Cup of Nations? Could he get to that level this season?
I think so. I think so. And it's been confirmed by the coach, Otto, where he says that he's been really impressed at the start of the season where they are monitoring him, they are keeping an eye on him. And it's no surprise because even in the provisional squad for the 2023 AFCON, which happened earlier this year, Forson was actually part of the provisional list. And that was when he was with RB Salzburg and all that. Forson didn't play with any of our youth national teams. Usually when you don't do that, it's very difficult, I would say, to break into the team. But it is still possible. A number of players have done that. And I do see Forson becoming one of that. His popularity has grown in the past few months. And the biggest testament is the fact that a lot of people were disappointed when he wasn't slotted straight into the squad. And when he was put in, people were like, yeah, now you're talking, Otto. Now you're talking, we need Forson in that team. And so I think the general commentary about him is improving. People are seeing what he's doing, especially his fast start in Norwich, I think has fast-tracked that as well. And so people are really positive. And also because in Ghana's midfield, there is that big potential gap for him to fill. Thomas Partey, he's like the anchor main man, captain, but he's well in his 30s, has struggled with injuries recently. And so, I mean, in the last AFCON, we couldn't rely on him as well. Kofi Tre, who came in really well, also picked up an ACL injury, and so he's been out for a while now. Salis Samid has come to Sunderland, would be a rivals in the championship, but he's also struggled for form recently. Elisha Owusu is also in there. But basically, Forson with the straights is a bit unique in the Ghana midfield. What we do have is a lot of players who can tackle, recycle, play that lone six. But with regards to pure number 8s, that's in box-to-box stuff, we're looking at maybe Majid Ashimeru and then Forson Amankwah being the only two people who can operate in that number 8 at the moment. So his profile does make a very good case for him as to being included. But from now to the AFCON is like 14 months away. So a lot of things can change. But as things do stand, I do think he's much closer to the squad than out.
Maybe it's going to be the Ghanaian dance that kind of gets him in that final squad, hey?
Yeah.
I'm really fascinated to know, finally, Owuraku, what impact has Amankwah Forson's signing for Norwich City had for Ghanaian football, right? Because it must mean a lot for young players back in Ghana, obviously where you are right now, to see Amankwah Forson playing in championship football with the hope of getting into the promised land of the Premier League. I mean, I remember going to Zambia, helping out at a local orphanage a number of years ago now, and I brought over some Norwich City shirts, and I know firsthand just how passionate people are about football. What sort of impact? Are we going to expect loads of Norwich City shirts in Ghana now?
Well, I think we used to have a connection with Norwich, actually. Was it Alexander Tete? I think he was on your
Of course, I forgot. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a number of years ago. But those times, people used to watch Norwich back in the Premier League, and also when you came back with Pookie, Pookie was in a lot of fantasy teams here in Ghana. So I think Norwich is already kind of popular here already. But someone like Forson coming in definitely has shot that up. And if there's any case to refer to, I think the most recent one is Fatal Isaku and Leicester City. Came into the championship and just took it by storm. And all of a sudden, the interest in Leicester games just shot up. And that's the thing about Ghanaians. They love to support their players, they love to support their own. And so once you do show good stuff like what Forson is doing, I believe in no time people would be queuing up to see Norwich City games. So this is even evident in the social media post by Norwich, where you can see anytime they post about him, the love that he receives in the comments from Ghana. I think it's just positive from the people here in Ghana, and they're just hoping that he can follow the trajectory of Semenyo and Fatal Isaku to also climb up and then play in the Premier League. But it's really exciting to see a young player playing the Championship. The Championship has taken a complete toll with regards to the perception here in Ghana. At first, it used to be seen as a second-tier competition, just that. But the popularity has really shot up in the past few years, where I would even say the championship here is perceived on a higher ranking than some other European leagues. People do follow the championship more than maybe some other Scandinavian leagues and leagues in Europe as well. So it's a really good place to be, and we're hoping that he continues his development.
Owuraku, I want to do a quick comparison, okay? Alexander Tete played for Norwich City for many years in the Premier League, scored against Manchester United, the Tete toe poke, as we called it. Amankwah Forson's coming through now. Can Amankwah Forson get better than Alexander Tete for Norwich City?
Wow, that's a very tough question, isn't it? But I think Alexander was more of a defensive midfielder, right?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe slightly different profiles, but I do think he was a serious. I remember watching him, very strong presence in midfield and in that Norwich core. First things, I think he spent about 9 years at Norwich, very long time, and became one of the captains. And so, Fawcett will probably have to replicate similar numbers with regards to longevity and relevance in the team, leadership, and all of that. But it is possible. It is possible. I do think they're both different players in their own ways. But Forson probably need to be more consistent and would need to become a more vocal voice in the dressing room to be able to reach the height of Alexander Tete. But it's always within his reach. I think he has that potential.
Amankwah, if you're watching, which I know you will be, that's your target. We need you to become better than Alexander Tete, and then we'll all love you. Owuraku, thank you so much for your time. God bless you, my friend. It's been a pleasure and privilege to speak with you. I'm so grateful you broke that news, and I'm so grateful that you're now going to become a Norwich City fan, and we look forward to following your updates on social media. I'll make sure that everyone follows you on social media that supports Talk Norwich City. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you too. All the best to awesome Forson, right? That's it.
And a massive thank you to everyone watching and listening to this all over the planet. We really appreciate your support. If you've enjoyed this, give this a like on YouTube and let us know what you thought. Tag us in your comments and opinions at Talk Norwich City, and I'll be sure to share all of them as a thanks for your support.